They sold my 300K apartment for the family. I cut contact. Now they beg at my door. The last time I saw my family, I didn't say goodbye. No dramatic scene, no packed bags at the door, just silence. I walked out of the apartment building I once called home, the one I paid for, renovated and cherished, and I never went back. You know what the worst part is? It wasn't a stranger who betrayed me. It was my own blood, my family, the people I grew up trusting more than anything. My name is Lauren, and this is the story of how they sold my $300,000 apartment behind my back and thought they'd never face the consequences. Back then, I was 27, working hard in finance, pulling 12-hour days at a firm in Chicago. No husband, no kids, just my career and a plan. I had saved up every penny to buy that apartment. A beautiful 2-bedroom on the north side. It was small but mine. Well, mine in theory. The paperwork? That was in my parents' names. Why? Because I trusted them. Because they told me it would make things easier. Because I was too naive to imagine they'd ever betray me. That day, I came home from work a little earlier than usual. The living room was empty. My furniture was gone. My books. My plants. Even the rug I bought from a vintage store in Portland. Gone. I remember the silence. It rang louder than any scream. I called my mother in a panic. Her voice was calm, as if this was normal. "Oh, Lauren, don't overreact. We sold the apartment. It's better for the family this way." Better for the family? That apartment was my life, and they sold it, without even telling me. I wish I could say I lost control, that I shouted, cried, fell apart. But no, I went cold. I packed a single suitcase and left without another word. I disappeared, and I built a new life from scratch. But now, years later, guess who's knocking at my door, asking for help, pretending nothing ever happened? If you were in my shoes, would you forgive them, or would you make them regret it? Comment below what you would do. And don't forget to subscribe. This story gets deeper than you can imagine. Looking back, the signs were always there. I just didn't want to see them. I grew up in a family where loyalty meant silence. We didn't air our grievances. We smoothed things over, smiled through betrayal. That was the unspoken rule. So when my father suggested putting the apartment under his and my mother's name, just for now, until you settle things at the bank, I didn't push back. "It's all in the family, Lauren," he said. "What difference does it make?" And I believed him. I always wanted to believe the best in them, especially after everything we'd been through. My father had survived cancer. My mother took care of him like a soldier. My younger brother, Aaron, was still living at home, drifting from one failed business idea to the next. And me? I was the one who made it. I got out. I was the success story. So maybe, deep down, I thought it was my responsibility to give back. And I did. Rent? I paid it. Groceries? On my card. Medical bills? Covered. When my mom wanted to redo her kitchen, I sent her money. When Aaron's car broke down, I co-signed the loan. They never asked directly. They were more subtle than that. "Lauren, honey, I hate to ask, but I just don't know what we'd do without you. You know we'd do the same for you, right?" It wasn't just guilt. It was love mixed with obligation. And that's the most dangerous kind. The first real red flag came 6 months before they sold the apartment. I remember coming home late from work, exhausted, frustrated, only to find my brother and 2 of his friends lounging in my living room. They had opened a bottle of wine I had been saving. There were pizza boxes on my marble countertop. One of them was smoking. Inside. I snapped. "What are you doing here?" Aaron gave me that smug little smirk of his. "Mom said it was fine. It's not like it's your place anyway." I stared at him. "Excuse me?" He shrugged. "She said it's under her name, so..." That night I had a long talk with my mother. I expected her to be embarrassed, apologetic. Instead, she sighed like I was being dramatic. "Lauren, honey, why are you being so territorial? You know this place is part of the family's future. Aaron's just trying to get back on his feet." So I dropped it. Again. But I started locking my bedroom door at night. Started hiding important documents. Started checking my mail more carefully. Still, I didn't imagine they'd ever take something from me. Not really. Not something that big. But slowly, the apartment stopped feeling like mine. They came and went as they pleased. Once, I found my dad bringing in boxes of his old books to store in the hallway closet. Little by little, they were claiming pieces of it, like it belonged to them all along. But I didn't confront them. Not then, because deep down, I still wanted to believe they loved me more than they needed me. I was wrong. It was a Thursday. I remember because I had just finished a brutal pitch at work. I was drained, mentally and physically, and all I wanted was to go home, take a shower, and lie on my couch with a glass of wine. When I stepped off the elevator and turned the key in the door, something felt wrong. The lock. It turned too easily. Inside, the air smelled different, like fresh paint and dust, the kind of scent that doesn't belong to your life. And then I saw it. The apartment was empty. Everything, gone. My sofa, my TV, my books, my framed degree, even the blanket my grandmother crocheted for me in college. Missing. At first, I thought we'd been robbed. I dropped my bag and ran to the bedroom. Bare. No clothes, no jewelry, not even my old shoebox of letters under the bed. I stood in the middle of the room, heart racing, my mind trying to make sense of it. That's when my phone rang. It was my mother. Her voice was almost cheerful. "Oh, good. You're home. Listen, we've been trying to get in touch." "What the hell is going on?" I snapped. "Where is my stuff? What happened to the apartment?" A pause, then a sigh. "Lauren, don't get emotional. We sold it." The words didn't register at first. "You what?" It was time. The market was good, and Aaron needed a boost for his business. Your father and I talked about it, and, well, it just made sense. "You sold my apartment without even telling me?" "Technically, it wasn't yours. It was in our name, remember?" That sentence. That single sentence burned through me like acid. They were right, legally. But morally, spiritually, emotionally, that was my home. I paid every cent of it, decorated it, maintained it, protected it. I cannot believe you did this to me. "Lauren, don't be so dramatic. We're a family. You've always had a roof over your head. You're not going to be homeless. We can clear out the guest room until you figure things out." Like a child, like a failure. That's what they thought of me. I hung up. I didn't even respond. My hands were shaking, my face hot with rage. I stood alone in that gutted apartment, echoing with emptiness, the shell of everything I had built. And in that moment, I made a decision. I was done being their savior, done being their golden ticket, done being their fool. They had sold my home without a word, for the good of the family. Now they would see what it meant to lose me. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed at a hotel a few blocks away, one of those chain places with a stiff bed and dim lights that make everything feel colder. I stared at the ceiling for hours, rehearsing every conversation I'd had with them, every sacrifice I made, every time I ignored a red flag in the name of family. By sunrise, I was done crying. I got up, booked a one-way ticket, and packed what little I had left into a single carry-on. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. No goodbyes, no dramatic letters, just silence. I moved to Seattle. I'd only been there once before, on a work trip, but it was far, clean, and quiet. No ghosts in the walls. The first few months were brutal. I was couch surfing through corporate rentals, working long hours remotely for the same company. I barely ate. I barely spoke. But with each day that passed, something started to grow in me. Not anger, discipline. I opened a private account, one only I had access to. I changed my number, blocked theirs. I updated all my passwords, my documents, my mailing address. Every string they had attached to me, I cut. Then I began to save. Every dollar, every bonus, every overtime hour. While they thought I was lost, drifting, I was rebuilding. I wasn't aiming for comfort. I was building power. A year later, I was promoted. 2 years in, I was managing my own team. By year 3, I had launched a small business of my own, a side project that turned into something bigger than I could have imagined. I had real clients, real freedom. I bought a condo, in my name. No signatures but mine. No one had keys but me. For the first time, I woke up without fear of being used, without guilt. And here's the thing. When you remove the people who drain you, you suddenly have space for people who see you. I made new friends. Started dating again. Carefully, slowly. I even started writing again, something I hadn't done since college. My words had weight now. Stories that came from pain, but not weakness. And for the first time in my adult life, I felt like I belonged to myself. What would you do if your own family betrayed you like this? Would you ever speak to them again? Or would you vanish like I did? Comment below. I want to know what you think. But of course, peace doesn't last forever. Because 3 years later, on a rainy Tuesday morning, I opened my door, and there they were, my mother, my father, and Aaron, standing in the rain, holding nothing but a plastic bag, looking at me like they expected a warm hug and hot coffee. And all I felt was calm. They stood there, drenched from the rain, looking older, smaller. My father, once so commanding, hunched slightly like a man carrying too many regrets. My mother still tried to keep her chin up, her lipstick perfect, as if appearances could still protect her. And Aaron, he avoided my eyes, shifting his weight like a boy caught stealing. I opened the door. I didn't smile. "Lauren," my mother breathed. "Look at you. You look so good, so successful." I said nothing. "We've been trying to reach you," my father added. "We didn't know where you'd gone." That was the point. I let them in. Not because I forgave them, but because I wanted them to see what I had built, with nothing but the pieces they left behind. They looked around in awe. Hardwood floors, art on the walls, a full bookshelf, success, independence, silence. "Nice place," Aaron muttered. I glanced at him. "It's in my name." My mother flinched, just slightly. They sat at my kitchen table, and for a moment, I let the silence work for me. Then she said it. "We've fallen on hard times, Lauren." Of course they had. Aaron had burned through another startup. My father had retired early. My mother had refinanced their home and lost it in a bad investment. They needed help. They needed me. The same daughter who was once too emotional. The same daughter whose apartment they sold for the good of the family. The same daughter they hadn't spoken to in 3 years, unless you count a single Christmas card with no return address. And now, they were here, asking, begging. But they didn't say those words, of course. They wrapped it in concern. "We miss you. You're doing so well. We could really use a fresh start. Together." And I played along, because this was the moment I had trained for. "I understand," I said gently. "It must have been hard." My mother softened. "We always knew you'd make it. You've always been the strong one." I nodded, sipping my tea. Then I made my offer. A small monthly stipend, enough for groceries, maybe a bill or two. Not cash, a prepaid card, controlled, limited. Their faces fell, just slightly. "But maybe we could stay here a while," my father asked, "just until things settle down." I looked him dead in the eye. "No." They blinked. "This is my space, my peace. I've worked too hard to open that door again. But we're family." I smiled. "You taught me exactly what that word means." For a few weeks, things were quiet. They accepted my terms, took the monthly card, didn't push for more. I thought, maybe, just maybe, they had learned. I even started to feel, not forgiveness, but something like closure. I'd taken back the power. They had come to me, on my terms. And I thought that was the end. But manipulators never stop. They just regroup. One morning, I got a call from my bank. Nothing major, just a routine verification on a recent attempt to access my old joint account. "Joint account?" I asked. "Yes, Ms. Bennett. The one you had co-listed with an Aaron Bennett. Someone tried to request a password reset and mailing address change." I froze. That account had been closed years ago. Or so I thought. I had asked Aaron to help me with some business paperwork back in Chicago, back when I was still too trusting. Apparently, he had used my information to open a backup account, in both our names. I had forgotten. He hadn't. He'd tried to re-access it, possibly to reactivate it, or worse, to try and use my identity to open new credit lines. I felt it, that old burn in my chest, that quiet mix of rage and heartbreak. So they hadn't changed. They didn't come back for peace. They came back because they thought I was still the same Lauren, the one who wouldn't press charges, the one who would let things slide, the one who would say, "But they're my family. They were wrong." I didn't confront them immediately. I gathered everything first. I spoke to a lawyer. I ordered full credit reports, flagged my social security number. I secured everything, everything. And then, once I was ready, I invited them back to my place. One last time. They came smiling, expecting another round of help. I handed them a copy of the lawyer's letter. My mother read it slowly. Her hands trembled. Aaron's face turned red. "This is a misunderstanding." "No," I said calmly. "It's a pattern. You're going to turn on your own brother over a mistake?" I looked at him. Selling my apartment wasn't a mistake. Lying about it wasn't a mistake. Stealing my identity? That's a crime. My father stepped forward. "Come on, Lauren. You're better than this." And I smiled. A slow, deliberate smile. "No, I'm smarter than I used to be. That's the difference." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse. I didn't cry. I stood still, grounded, while they unraveled in front of me. And then, I asked them to leave. Not forever, just for now, because what I had planned next would be the final chapter. You know what no one tells you? That real revenge doesn't feel like fireworks. It's not loud, it's not messy, it's not some cinematic slap across the face. It's silence. It's certainty. It's watching someone realize they've lost access, not just to your money, but to you. After they left my apartment, clutching that lawyer's letter like a warning they never thought they'd receive, I sat on my couch for a long time. I wasn't angry. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even surprised. Because deep down, I had known. I had always known that if given the chance, they'd do it again. And they did. They didn't come back for redemption. They came back for resources. They still saw me as an asset, not a daughter, and that was their final mistake. Because what they didn't realize was that the Lauren they betrayed in Chicago was gone. She didn't just disappear, she evolved. So no, I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't give them the scene they probably expected. I started planning. The first thing I did was secure my identity. You'd be surprised how many ways people can use your name, especially if they've had access to your documents before. I contacted every bank I'd ever dealt with. I had new security protocols placed on all my accounts, filed fraud alerts with the major credit bureaus, froze my credit, changed my social security number's connection with old financial tools. Then I went deeper. I sat with my lawyer and combed through every past asset, account, and legal document that had ever involved my family. We found 5 weak points. Places where Aaron had either attached himself without permission or left traces of my information in business filings. We didn't sue. Not yet. We documented. Every attempt, every document, every date. If they ever tried anything again, I'd be ready. I closed that old joint account for good. But before I did, I had the bank flag the attempted access Aaron had made and send me the formal report. A copy of that report went straight into a fireproof safe. Because my revenge wasn't about punishing them in court, it was about making sure they knew I could. Then, I changed my life's locks. Literally and figuratively. I had the locks on my condo changed. Not just the front door, but the building access codes. I told the doorman never to allow them in again. I added cameras to my hallway. Security alerts to every entrance. Their names were added to a no-entry list. Permanently. Digitally, I scrubbed them out too. Blocked their phone numbers, every email address, even the fake ones my mother had started using, those sad little Gmail accounts that sounded like apologies before I even opened them. I didn't open them. I changed every password, every recovery question. And on social media, gone, blocked, erased, invisible. Not because I was hiding, but because I no longer owed them access to my life. They had forfeited that right. And then, I made it permanent. I sent one final message. No begging, no pleading, no open doors. Just truth. Hi, I've made the decision to move forward in my life without contact. Please do not reach out again by any means, legal or personal. I am choosing peace, protection, and permanent boundaries. Wishing you the life you choose to create. Lauren. That was the last time I ever typed their names. What came next? Surprised even me. Peace. Not the kind where everything is soft and quiet, the kind where you wake up and there's no fear, no anxiety when the phone rings, no racing heart when a blocked number shows up. No guilt for saying no, just freedom. I started sleeping better, laughing again, going on walks just to feel the air. I poured everything into my business. What started as a side hustle had grown. Now it was a full consulting brand focused on financial boundaries for women. Turns out, a lot of us have Laurens inside us. Daughters who were used, women who were treated like wallets, sisters who were manipulated by guilt, wives who signed things they didn't understand because someone they loved told them it was for the best. I started writing about it, quietly, under a pseudonym. My blog posts were raw, honest, and real. They started going viral. And before I knew it, I was being asked to speak on podcasts, in online summits, even at a local women's group. Without saying a word about my family's name, I exposed everything they did. Not out of spite, out of truth. Because if you don't name the wound, you can't heal it. I don't know what happened to them after that. I've heard whispers, through old friends, through distant relatives who didn't pick sides. Aaron's latest business went bankrupt. My parents lost the last of their savings. They moved to a small rental in a different state. But that's not my concern anymore. I don't check in, I don't feel sorry, and I don't look back. Because they didn't just lose access to my bank account, they lost access to me. And in the end, that was the most valuable thing they never truly appreciated. Sometimes people think that when you cut ties with your family, you're filled with hate. That couldn't be further from the truth. Hate is heavy. It takes up space in your body. It lingers in your bones, in your voice, in your breath. I didn't want to carry that. What I wanted, and what I finally claimed, was peace. But not the kind you see in movies. Not a quiet cabin in the woods, or a slow walk on the beach with wind in your hair. No, peace is power. Peace is waking up and knowing your life belongs to you. Peace is answering to no one who once made you feel small. Peace is the quiet strength that says, I will not explain myself anymore. After everything they did, after everything they took, I still rose. I still built. And I did it without screaming, without revenge porn, without public drama. My revenge was in the living. They underestimated me because I was quiet, because I was giving, because I said yes when I should have said no. But when I said no for the first time, truly said it, with my whole being, the world opened up. And I want to say this to anyone who's been where I've been. You don't have to burn the house down to walk away from it. You don't need to beg for someone to understand what they did to you. You don't need them to validate your pain. You don't need a dramatic apology to let go. Sometimes healing means simply closing the door and locking it from the inside. My life today is full of people who see me, not for what I can give them, but for who I am. I have friends I can trust, a partner who respects me, clients who value my voice, a community of women who lift each other up instead of draining each other dry. And every time someone says to me, "You're so strong, Lauren," I smile, because they're only seeing the surface. They don't know the years I spent doubting myself, the nights I stared at the ceiling wondering if I had been too harsh, the little girl inside me who still wanted to be loved by people who didn't know how. But strength isn't the absence of doubt. It's the decision to move forward anyway, to build anyway, to protect yourself anyway, to love yourself first. That's what they never taught me growing up. That self-love could be a form of defense. That choosing yourself didn't make you selfish. It made you free. I look around my home now, the walls painted the way I like them, the music playing low in the background, the books I chose, the couch I bought with my own money, the peace I earned inch by inch. And I think, this is my happy ending. Not because it's perfect, not because it's painless, but because it's mine. Have you ever had to cut ties to protect your peace? Have you walked away from people who told you they loved you, but showed you the opposite? Tell me in the comments, because your story matters too. And if this one touched you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to let go, because sometimes the greatest act of love is choosing yourself.